Hi, Sagittarius rising sign. Here is your weekly forecast starting on the 24th of March until the 31st of March. For a Sagittarius rising using a Western whole sign house system, many questions I receive about that. So let me just put it out there. You have got quite a lot of fifth house activations happening this week. So last week you had the Sun and Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries. So there was a bit of a fog centered around creative projects, romance, or your relationship with children as well. But now the Sun moves towards Saturn. So that area of life gets a major reality check. For you, this likely felt like a bit of a romantic fog last week, and maybe you were lost in a new crush, a vague art project, or just a general sense of play that lacked a goal. But now, on March 25th, the Sun hits Saturn in the same house. So Saturn is the editor. So Saturn here is the reality check for your joy. It says it's time to stop playing around, let's say, with your talents or start treating them like a legacy. If you have a creative business or a project you have been kind of dabbling in, today is the day you build that professional structure to make something permanent. Now, Saturn is the ruler of your second and third house, and the Sun is your ninth house. So, from a ninth and the third house point of view, maybe it's about sitting down with your kids or with your boyfriend, girlfriend to kind of decide where we want to go on holiday. And from a second and a ninth house point of view, this might be about what I'm going to be doing with my money, where I'm going to be taking risk. Is it safe for me to take risk, for example, in my given country, and maybe I want to be investing somewhere else? Now, the big pivot moment of the week is the 27th, when we have got Saturn and the Pluto sextile. Most likely, I'm going to be making a separate video about that because, of course, this is a huge aspect. And this is triggering your third house and fifth house. So think back to January 2020, because we had that heavy Saturn Pluto conjunction in your second house, the house of money. And maybe you went through a total restructuring of your finances or a complete overhaul of what you value. You learned exactly what you need to survive. And now Pluto is in your third house, the house of mindset, and Saturn is in your fifth house, the house of creativity. So, all those survival skills that you learned, the financial wisdom that you have been building since 2020, is becoming somehow a public message or a creative product of that. So, like, you turn the earned wisdom into a creative project, basically. That's what it is about. So if you have been thinking about launching a course, a brand, a book, based on what you have learned or gained, then you get the green light from this aspect. You are building this physical infrastructure for your own self-expression, but it is somehow all money related. So you might be ready to sell something, a creative project of yours, and so on. Now we've got the Vesta and North Node conjunction happening in your fourth house as well, and Vesta North Node is the sacred mission. Vesta is the devotion, the North Node is the growth, the path that we need to be on. So this is about your home, your ancestors, your private world. So you become devoted to your domestic life, a property better, and this is about you wanting to create your own space. Maybe you are thinking about settling down, or where am I going to settle down? Potentially, there's going to be clarity coming to you once Jupiter moves into your ninth house, which is going to be happening just in a few months' time. We also have got the Mars and Pallas Saturday conjunction happening in your excuse me, fourth house as well. So this comes with a tactical strategy. So yes, you might have been dealing with some family matters, or you're kind of like trying to come up with a plan how to live a better life, where I can live a better life. Maybe you start seeing some patterns in how your home environment supports or drains your energy. Maybe you have been negotiating a real estate deal or certain type of living arrangements, and this is reminding you there is no point in using fire. This is more about compassion, empathy, and understanding. And we have got a better chance to win. This is about um, it's like a bit of a brainy type of combo where I'm going to be playing the games, but in a very smart way. Playing the games comes from the fact that Mars is actually the ruler of your fifth house. So if you would like your family members to back you up, for example, then this is about using compassion, empathy, a slightly bit of a manipulation too. Maybe you want to use a less of a fire, to kind of, to support you that fifth house project that you might be on. Also, we've got quite a planetary cluster happening in your eighth house, which we also spoke about last week, due to Jupiter, Apollo, Isis, and Eros being there. But now Sappho joins the club as well. So this is about finding divine joy in a deep connection or receive unexpected support, or this is kind of like a soulful merging as well. And I can even imagine that potentially you are going to be uh, sitting down with the partner, doing certain type of financial arrangements about what are we going to do with properties or children and their education and so on. Now, Venus moves into your sixth house and immediately squares Juno in your third. So, Venus in the sixth house wants beauty, peace, and it wants better health routines. It wants to beautify the workflow, basically. Now, Juno in the third house is about your commitment to your local network, a commitment toward a sibling, a neighbor, and certain type of mental schedule. So imagine that you want to take a spa day, or you would like to clean up, beautify your office, for example, but you have got this commitment you have made to a local meeting, or you promised your sibling that you were going to help them. So, of course, these two are squaring, so it's a bit of a tug of war. I have to be choosing which one I'm going to do. Or maybe you just want a slow morning, you want to go to the gym, but then you realize that you have got this local project and I'm going to have to hold a presentation there, for example. So somehow having to find the balance between your daily grind as well as your local duties. So this week for me is turning your hobby into a legacy, uh, having to restructure the way you approach your creative endeavors. There is a lot of growth happening at your roots. So you're gonna have to devote yourself to your foundation. And maybe, the growth, I mean, not necessarily just growth, but it could indicate that maybe your parents are feeling a little bit under the weather and then you would like to spend a little bit more time with them. And maybe the frustration between Juno and Venus as well, that you're gonna have to be auditing your schedule a little bit. Like certain type of local commitments that could be sabotaging your physical health. So these are the major activations happening for you. I think you should be definitely listening to the general forecast. Hmm. Sorry about that, but I've got a bit of a flu. So you have to listen to the general forecast because I'm giving you the sensitive degrees there, I'm giving you the dates, and I'm giving you a lot more information which you might be able to put in your own natal chart. But this week is about you being a little bit more protective towards your environment as well as your kind of like home. Imagine that you would like to have, for example, a security camera installed because somehow you might not feel safe where you live. Or you want to be showing your family members that I do care, or it's about displaying your emotions to others. Somehow it invites us to be a lot more vulnerable, and that comes from the fourth and the eighth house activations also. maybe you want to be sitting down with people and then talking about the future and then seeing who is committed to what, who is the loyal member of the family. Can I trust them? Can I not trust them? I would also say that surely with the Pluto and Saturn, this is about using that inner power to tackle certain type of challenges in life, because at the end of the day, Saturn is a challenge. And maybe it's a challenge to express who you are. Maybe it's a challenge, like you're being slowed down in a creative project, and we have to be able to overcome it. But the sextile can help us to do so. So good luck, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.